Evening and welcome learners to this final session of a 10-hour journey with me on strategic management. We are going to take up the last two chapters of your syllabus. So far, it has been a great journey together, and I have been really impressed with the kind of queries that you have put up. And the kind of keenness and interest you have shown in learning the subject. As you can see, our schedule is slightly, kind of changed in the sense that we were supposed to do implement chapter 7 in the morning, but we are now taking it up. Our companions will be, as usual, think, deep dive, test drive. So did you know? Expert talks we unfortunately had to dispense with because of the challenges and glitches in sharing the videos, and definitely we'll be working on the case scenarios and raising ethical higher order thinking questions on strategic management. Because it is my last session, so I thought that I will gratefully acknowledge my keen participation since from day one from my first session. So I gratefully acknowledge the participation of Mansha, Renuka, Vedavati, Pranjali, Aryan Mishra, Navneet, Babita, Shiv, Mahima Bohra, Shyam Adhikari and Mohan. Especially in the morning session, we got some real interesting and challenging questions. We got Shiv asking the difference between BPR and business process automation. And Mahima Bohra, urged me to do a kind of a flow chart, linking the strategic, the change cycle with strategic management. And Shyam asked me a question on evangelism in marketing. If you remember my discussion on the marketing strategy, beautiful question, and obviously I'll be responding to it, in this session. And Mohan's question was answered then and there. He asked the question on financial engineering, and we did see how financial engineering works and how too much of financial engineering has been responsible for the breaking of scams and economic crisis the world over. Okay, so this is chapter 7, and you can see it's the major planks of this chapter are on structure, leadership, culture, and entrepreneurship. So I will be taking up all this very quickly, yet thoroughly, and I would be responding and taking your questions, as these arise, right? So it is important for us in a way to do a recap, because this recall is very important to my mind, especially as we are in the final session of the day, that our basic approach has been that firm behavior has been a function of firm strengths and weaknesses and environmental opportunities and threats. I will be enlarging this slide as I am done, because I am going to do something live for you so that you can kind of understand how critical is this equation in understanding the entire subject of strategic management. So the moment I am focusing on corporate level strategy formulation, you see that I am looking at the SWOT analysis, as we have already kind of done in fair amount of detail, and my reference point as far as environment is concerned is macro environment, social, economic, political. Some people call it pestle, some people call it step. You name it, whatever way. But think of the substance is that you have to look at the trends in the economic, political, social, legal and technological environment to be able to formulate your strategy. So that means for the corporate level strategy formulation, my environmental variables are more kind of macro, so to say, and therefore I look at the outer layer of the environment that I drew in my very first session, right? So yeah, so it is here. So my environmental variables here are what you call macro environment, right? And of course, when I say macro today, open macro, you mean to say, I mean to say, you have to look at the international environment also, right? And the firm strengths and weaknesses, they pertain more to the corporation as a whole, rather than, it's kind of a specific business. So our unit of analysis is this when we are formulating a corporate level of strategy. But the moment I move to the from the corporate level to the business level strategy, my equation is the same, but the scope of the variables, kind of changes. And instead of the macro environment, I am more concerned with the industry structure, right? And my unit of analysis, changes from the corporation to the business value chain. So, as you can see, therefore, retaining the basic equation of strategic management, especially for those who are mathematically inclined, what we are doing is that depending upon the level of strategy formulation, we are changing the scale, of the environmental and firm level analysis. And as we discussed in the morning, our functional strategies, we again retain the same format. If you remember the structure that I had created: input, throughput, output, and internal factors and external factors. So what were we doing? Our unit of analysis shifted from the industry to the task environment of the function. Task environment. Allow me to use an abbreviation here of the function, and the strengths and weaknesses were looked at from the perspective of the elements of the function. For example, in marketing, we did 7 P's, right? 4 P's for the conventional 4 P's plus 3 P's for the services marketing. This is very important. In strategy, whatever we do, we always keep in mind the context, and we always try to see how we seize up the context with our strengths, and guard against the weaknesses, and our scale and level of analysis changes. So I hope this kind of fundamental principle of strategy analysis you will always keep in mind whatever you do and whatever you study in strategic management. Okay. Then, of course, we had also highlighted the fact that whenever we talk of management, as such, what we mean is, a kind of a cycle comprising the stages of planning and implementation, and control. Right? So again, I will be duly, putting up this slide. Its bigger version and bigger fonts for your, perusal and for clarity of visibility, and of course, building of the understanding. I hope, however, that you are with me as far as the development of this basic, concepts is concerned. Here you are with the full view of the slide. So when we say management, as I said, we are not only doing strategy formulation or planning, but we are also factoring in implementation and control. And today's session is going to take up, two important issues of implementation and, of course, strategy control. Two important issues, namely organizational structure and organizational culture, and their relationship with strategy implementation, right? And the third implementation lever we discussed in the morning, that was functional strategies. So I hope the context for today's discussion is all clear. If there are any questions, I would be very happy to respond these right now. But I hope we can, move ahead from here. Great. We have talked about the relationship between strategy and structure in response to one of the questions that was raised on the platform. And we have seen that there are two views, on the relationship between strategy and structure. However, it is good that we presume that organizational structure is malleable. We can change it, right? And therefore move ahead with our strategic intent. Okay. And how it all happens, if you look at the life cycle of a business, you start very small, and your organization is virtually, one-man show, that is of an entrepreneur. At the most, there will be a couple of assistants. So your organization structure is very simple: boss, that is the entrepreneur, and a couple of employees, that is the subordinates, right? There might be some division of labor among the employees of the business, but no specialization as yet has emerged. So the story really begins with the evolution of a functional structure, wherein you start putting in place the specialists into your functional structure, right? Finance, production, marketing, and so on. So you will create a organization structure wherein you put functional specialists in charge of the specific functionalities of the enterprise. For a normal, manufacturing enterprise, the key functions will be marketing, finance, HR, right? And production, of course. So this is how functional structure is very natural and very kind of endemic to the organized way of doing the business, right? And probably this is the most basic form of organization structure that one comes across. However, as the business grows and maybe also diversifies, there is a need, felt to create divisions with a view to focusing on specific customers and markets. And what results is a divisional structure, right? So in my earlier sessions, I have also tried to, kind of clarify how we may distinguish between a divisional structure and a SBU structure. I hope you remember my deliberations and discussions on that. However, if there are any queries, even now, I would be very happy to respond to those queries. So this is the SBU structure. So the difference between the functional, the divisional and the SBU structure is that not every division may be strategic. So, and what is strategic? We have discussed this question, in great length. Every decision is not strategic, right? So, strategic decision is the one that will have a enduring impact on the future of the corporation or of the business, right? So, when a business is a portfolio, or when a corporation is a portfolio of various businesses, not all businesses may have a strategic value, and therefore, it is possible to distinguish between a divisional structure and a SBU structure. Now, matrix is a hybrid. This question I had taken up in the morning session also, and I had, kind of suggested that what we are doing is that we are doing a cross between the functional structure and the divisional structure. Why this matrix, becomes necessary? For this, I will take you through a small journey of this evolution of the matrix structure. Now, suppose you are a restaurant, right? And normally you are a dine-in, restaurant. People come in and have their breakfast, luncheon, and dinner, right? And go back. And suppose you get a big order for outdoor catering, right? So it is not your normal business to do outdoor catering. You are a restaurant, dine-in restaurant, but you get an opportunity to do outdoor catering. So, and you are not sure whether you would like to pursue it as a business opportunity, but yet you think that there's no harm in testing the waters before we take a leap, and let us give it a shot. Let us try and do an outdoor catering. So what will you do? You will make a temporary cross-functional team. Now you will get on board certain chefs. You will get certain F&B service people around, right? And maybe you will hire additional equipment and so on and so forth. And try and execute the banquet order, outdoor banquet order that you get and you decide to fulfill, right? So therefore, you evolve a cross-functional team, and maybe the team does very well, and you say, okay, whenever we get an outdoor catering order, the same team will go, right? So we will run our restaurant as usual, but then there will be a separate team who would look for these kind of catering issues. So what you do is that you diversify your product. So what is your product in dine-in restaurant? And then you add a banquet division to it, right? So you have created a banquet division, and the kind of business goes on, right? And as you move ahead, as you grow, in this business, instead of one-off opportunities in outdoor banqueting, and so on, you realize that you are doing 5-6 banquets simultaneously in different locations, and you need not one team, you need 4-5 teams to get going. The question is, would you like to have those 4-5 teams, always with you, and give them, full-time appointment, or hire 4-5 sets of restaurant equipment, and a banquet equipment and cutleries and crockery and so on and so forth? That will be sheer, wasteful investment, because it's not that all the resources would be needed, every day, every time. So you can have same resources, and they can be used for the luncheon banquet, then they can be used for the dinner banquet. So it is not that you have to have multiple sets of everything. Now, this realization led to the development of a matrix structure. And as you can see, matrix is an arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. So uh, the most formal articulation or emergence of a mature matrix is this, that in the columns you have business resource managers. And what could be the business resources? This could be people, equipment, infrastructure, right? So, yeah. And of course, there can be several businesses, and that's how a mature matrix, kind of takes shape. Um, this organization, this type of organization is, kind of particular to the, certain types of businesses, especially those of the kind of these banquet projects. So, similar example can be given from, say, movie making, or a media house that is making movies and daily soaps and so on. So if there are, suppose, five productions on the floor, it is not that you need five studios, you need 10 cameras, you need five sound recordists, and so on and so forth. Because one, different projects will be at different stages of completion. Suppose you're in the movie business, some movie will still be at story sessions. So you're just listening to the story and then trying to take a call whether you will be making a movie based on this or not, right? So some would be at dialogue writing, right? Some would be at casting stage, right? Some will be at the shooting stage. Some would be at the dubbing stage, right? Some would be at the pre-production stage. So you don't need multiple resources. What you can do is you can schedule the resources, in sync with this production schedule of project 1, project 2, and project 3 in the row of the matrix. So what are you doing? You are economizing on the resource consumption and resource ownership. So by investing less, you are able to do more business, right? And that's the beauty of the matrix structure. And this structure, therefore, has evolved in response to the to the needs and demands of the businesses as they experienced these kind of challenges that I have talked about. So likewise, the construction business, right? So I have taken up three case scenarios for you as far as this particular type of organizational structure is concerned. I hope you are with me, and you are, kind of doing you are doing the sense making of how this matrix structure is really a huge solution of the kind of problems that are faced by certain businesses. So I have taken up three stories in a way so far, and you can find your own stories on the similar lines. So I begin with the F&B business, hospitality sector, right? For example, in hotels, apart from the normal, what you call guest management, if there is a wedding, happening, so you have a team, to cater to that kind of demand. Then, secondly, I just took up the example of what you call entertainment industry, wherein you are managing 4 or 5 projects simultaneously without having 4 times and 5 times of investment. So you are economizing. So your capital turnover ratio is very, very high, because your capital works in the morning, it works in the afternoon, it works in the evening, it works in the night. So 4 shifts you are doing. So in a way, your return on investment can multiply similarly. So even if the margin is low, so 5%, and you are capital turnover ratio is 4 times, that means your ROI is 20%, right? So this is the smart way of strategizing your businesses, and that is where you resort to structure as a strategic tool, right? So matrix structure therefore becomes a very powerful strategy tool when it comes to attaining your strategic objectives and goals. The third example that I just mentioned is the construction industry. So if you are doing 5 6 construction projects, it is not that you need 5 cranes, five what you call JB machines, right? And you know that different construction projects are at different phases of completion, and you will be needing the resources as and when you reach a particular stage. So what you can do is that same resources you can schedule in sync with the schedule of your projects, and you can do a timetable in a way that the same resources move from one project to another to another. So of course here the logistics will matter a lot, and your ability to move the resources from one location to another will matter a lot, but also you will be saving a lot of money, and thereby gearing up your return on investment, and therefore pleasing your kind of investors. Now, so much so in praise of the matrix structure, right? Uh, you see that yes, matrix structure enables you to reduce your investment cost by developing a logistics of the movement of your firm infrastructure and equipment, between the projects, over a period of over time, right? However, still you have to own some resources. Now, the next level question is, can't I do this business without making any investment? I don't have to buy even a single camera. I don't have to own even a single studio. Is it not possible to reduce my investment cost to zero and still be able to do the business? Is it possible? Would you like to apply your minds? What will be your take beyond the matrix? Oh, I think I should prompt you to think rather than take you to a test drive or which you know. Yeah? Would you like to apply your minds to the situation that I have just kind of stated? Can you see? So his matrix still will require certain investment. Now the question is there a way that I can reduce my investment to zero? Yeah, I can see the question from Srivatsa, that matrix structure defies the logic of unity of command. Yes, it does. But how does it matter? I mean to say, management principles are not sacrosanct. They also evolve, with time. They must evolve with time, right? And moreover, if at all unity of command is necessary, what happens is that the resources are put to the command of the business level managers. So that means the resources move from the control of the resource managers to the command of the business managers. So still unity of command is maintained? No. So, and as I said, let these principles not be sacrosanct, rigid, kind of rigidify your thinking. You have to really think out of box to be able to think strategically and, reduce costs, innovate and, do more business, and so on and so forth. Okay, I have not seen any, Shivangi says by taking loans and leasings, but then I have to, leasing is a great idea. A loan I am not agreeable to. That means if I can hire the equipment as and when, the need be. And if you remember, while we were discussing the financial strategy of the firm, we did mention this issue of, leasing or buying, right? So, whatever equipment and whatever people even I might need to get certain projects going, I might simply give a phone call to the relevant contractors and ask them to move the resources to those locations, get the work done, pay, and just get out of it, right? So question is what type of Shivangi, I'm very happy that you responded to this question. Gokul says that, outsourcing. Absolutely, Gokul, you're spot on. And Vishnu says, we cannot, but, Vishnu, you have Shivangi, Gokul, giving you the answer. And Manan also, comes in with the suggestion of leasing. Amazing response. I'm very happy to see such engaged learners in this particular session. Now, the bigger issue is that, okay, when we do this kind of a leasing, what kind of organization structure does it lead to? Any questions? Any responses to that? Suppose I am outsourcing everything, right, and I'm not owning, any resources. What kind of organization structure would it result in? Would you like to, respond? No. Let me move on because no, I cannot see any response so far. Network structure. So I can do my business through my cell phone. I pick up a phone and I tell my casting director that, look, this is what I need for today's shoot. I tell my costume person that these are the actors, who are coming in to play this role. I need this type of costume. I can tell my location person, a person who, arranges outdoor shoots that, look, I need to do a shoot there, so please move all the equipment there. So on one phone, I can do the entire business. In fact, industry sources in the heydays of Mahesh Bhatt, used to tell that Mahesh Bhatt ji is directing 7 movies at any given point of time. Now, how is that possible? It is possible through now with the technology, information and communication technology, and you over your laptop and over your phone, you can simultaneously, do n number of things, and as I said, without corresponding investment. So this is the beauty of the network structure. Of course, this structure is based because your resources are not in your ownership and control. So what is required of this structure is a lot of trust, among all the players, your designers, your suppliers, distributors, manufacturers, and a huge credibility and reliability. I should be sure that, okay, I give you a phone call and the job will be done. That kind of, assurance and trust, has to happen. And that's how the businesses these days are run. And think of these networks not being regional networks. These are global networks, right? And the amazing, kind of coordination that is needed to get these networks to work, right? So From matrix, therefore, we innovate even further and reach the network structure. And as I have put another thing and test drive for you, that can this network structure be developed into a virtual organization? What is your take on this? Yeah, Vishnu, you're spot on when you said network structure. That's great. Ritik, you're spot on. Viralakshmi and talks about this. Yes, so we can, the moment this network of suppliers and manufacturers and distributors, assumption is that everybody, kind of would be having a physical infrastructure of their own. No, suppose these in turn are networks. That means there are supplier networks, there are distributor networks, advertising and promotion networks, packager networks. So we have a virtual, kind of an organization, and its boundary is not defined. Gone are the days when we could define the organizational boundary. No, the boundary does not exist. What would you say of this type of an organization? So it becomes an ecosystem. Over 20 million population of apps, over 1 million developers using standardized open platforms, over 4 million businesses incorporating Facebook in their interactions, over 9 million external websites and applications connected to Facebook. Now, what kind of organization, is this? So this is what we are heading to. And these are the kind of organizations that we see, kind of nowadays, and therefore, organizations are turning into what you call virtual networks. In fact, that also reminds me that when we look at our strategy formulation and strategic management, where we looked at for the purposes of this paper, from corporate level, it is not difficult to envisage a higher level than the corporate level of strategic management, that is the network level. So here, my unit of analysis, changes tremendously, and I am looking at something like the organization of Facebook. So I hope I have been able to give you kind of a snapshot of the evolution of the organization structures, several case studies, that highlight the importance of the respective organizational structure. Aishwarya, I have elaborated already in detail the kind of thing. Gokul says that technically speaking, there is no difference between network structure and a virtual organization. But as I've already said that, when much of it is digital, then it becomes a virtual organization. Great. So network structure can be turned out to a virtual sector. Even Srivastava says, Nishta says, and Chirag also is of the same view. And Nikita also, Nikita gives the example of a Meesho app, which is quite popular, and it has created a platform. Amazing. So you have got a lot of interaction happening on the group, and this is how structure enables, and reinforces our strategic intent. Your, of course, your study material doesn't talk about the network structures and the virtual organizations, right? But I thought that it is necessary to give you a perspective. You may not remember the network structure, you may not remember the virtual structure, but you must remember the fact that the structures, organization structures, are a means. They are not an end by themselves. They are a means to attaining the strategic objectives. And constantly there will be a need to develop new organizational kind of designs. So your study material therefore kind of beautifully puts it together, that the new organizational designs will be lean, mean and green, and they will be using a lot of technology, and they will be ensuring a lot of autonomy to the people, freedom to the people without compromising on accountability. You see, in organizational design, this autonomy and accountability are the two important dimensions, right? For effective performance, for innovation, and for entrepreneurship to flourish within the organizations, we need to give a lot of autonomy to the people. But the question is how to hold them accountable for the organizational performance. So that's where organizational thinkers, and it is one of the areas that I love to work in. They are constantly thinking in terms of innovations in organizational design for unlocking the potential of the entities and enterprises, and more importantly, the people who make them. This also, kind of puts into perspective the changing paradigm of management, which, indirectly I have, kind of brought into the discussion throughout these, sessions that I have had with you, that now we like to focus on purpose rather than profit. From hierarchies, we have moved towards the networks, and from controlling, we have moved towards empowering, and there's a lot of opportunity for experimentation, and there's a lot of emphasis on transparency. So you see that organizational structure and the changing paradigm of management augur very well for the strategic management of the future. And yes, Rajesh, you're also correct when you say that your network structure can be good. I can see your concerns, coming in your queries about strategic responses to the pandemic. I have been, bringing this issue on and off, for example, and I have done a series of leadership, transformational leadership, and followership in wake of COVID-19. The time is not opportune here. Otherwise, I would have loved to share my work on how we have to have a new paradigm of management, governance, and organizations in view of the impact of the pandemic. Nevertheless, the general trend now is that the pyramidal structure of the organizations is giving to this hourglass-like kind of a structure, where the middle layer of the management has virtually disappeared. In fact, today everybody is at the top, so in a network everybody is equal, right? So there is no bossism and subordination, right? So organizations are becoming therefore, lateral, kind of platforms wherein people of all, domains and specializations, irrespective of age and, they meet, they interact with each other at one-to-one equal level rather than, in a feudal, bureaucratic and hierarchical setup. I move on to the next very important and interesting topic of strategic leadership, which your study material, kind of deals fairly effectively in terms of the responsibilities which are given to the leaders in their strategic roles for designing and implementing organization, information systems, management control, this feedback and policy formulation, and so on and so forth. I have tried to interpret it in a slightly different way. I'm sure you will love it, and it will reinforce your learning of the subject matter of strategic leadership. Uh, Vrinda, you have asked me to share the video. I'm so sorry. The system doesn't allow us to, kind of do the video. So I will not be in a kind of thing. And okay. Now you see that uh, strategy induces an organization-wide change, and this organizational change I have tried to capture in the 5 R's. These 5 R's I have mentioned in my earlier interactions also in the last 2 days or so. But even at the expense of kind of repeating. And this is where you will see there is an integration between this chapter and the next chapter, because the next chapter deals with the change, strategic change. So you will see that simultaneously, kind of I will be attending to the requirements of both the chapters and integrating these into a kind of a story within the framework of strategic management. So you have to reframe. Now, as I said, organizations are not places anymore. They have become networks. So this requires a different, frame of mind. If I am used to thinking of an organization or a firm, as a place where I go and work, now that notion is gone, and I have to really reframe my understanding of, my the world that I live in, right? And restructuring, as I mentioned, that we need to kind of rethink our ownership formats. I can foresee organizations emerging as owned by everybody, right? So kind of a cooperative federations, right? So the dichotomy between the owners, and the managers and the workers, it's fast disappearing. So what can happen is that everybody puts in a stake and gets the organization going, works, earns, repays, and so on and so forth. So and greater amount of flexibility, flattening of the hierarchies is happening. So organizational restructuring is happening. Re-engineering, we have already, talked in the morning session on business process re-engineering. There was a question on how business process re-engineering is different from business process automation. Not every process needs to be re-engineered by automation. The process only the way it is done. For example, if you go to the bank now, you can, deposit the money and withdraw the money from the same counter, right? Obviously up to a particular limit, right? So, is there any automation? No. What they have done is that they have just re-engineered the process. What was the process earlier? That if you had to withdraw the money, you will go to a particular clerk who will look at your passbook, and then he will pass that passbook on to somebody else to look at your check or your withdrawal slip and match your signatures, right? And then you will come back to the same counter. They will give you a token, and that token you will carry to the teller and withdraw your money. Now, it was a cumbersome process. It was really causing a lot of frustration to the customers. Oh, my money, and I have to withdraw it, and there's so much of hassle. So can't it be simplified? So what you can do is that your re-engineering might include rationalizing, streamlining the processes rather than automation alone, right? So I hope the difference between re-engineering and automation is clear. Now, utilization is the kind of linking the organization to the environment. And that's where, in my yesterday's and even the morning session, I highlighted the importance of purpose. The purpose of the corporation, therefore, is not the self-serving of some vested interest, but to serve a larger cause. So we work for cause, not for applause. That's the going, right? And when I develop a symbiotic relationship with the business environment, then environment, the business environment has a vested interest in ensuring that the businesses do well, right? So this is the kind of revitalization is necessary of our relationship with the you have asked me to share, Shiv, on my for my COVID talk. Maybe I will, but let me at the moment, kind of carry on with the discussion. And I am coming, Nikita, to transactional and transformational leadership very soon. Just have the patience and see. So these are the imperatives of strategic change, and therefore a kind of transformation is organizational transformation is needed, right? And if you see on the left panel, there's the life cycle of the butterfly, because transformation is a painful process. Just as a caterpillar has to, struggle in the cocoon and it has to come out from there and turn into a butterfly. Even if as an organization or as an individual, you want to emerge as a butterfly, you have to bear that pain of undergoing a transformation process. And that is where, to my mind, the strategic leadership, which I like to call as the transformational leadership, comes into picture. That so, in very simple words, I can say transformational leadership is the leadership during for organizational transformation. And so now you can see the link between leadership, organizational transformation, strategic change, and thereby achievement of strategic objectives, right? So what is this transformational leadership? I have put up a definition, I think given by Burns and Bass. They have been the pioneers as regards their work on transformational leadership. I have also done some work in this area, and we have developed some, very radical ideas on the organizational transformation and leadership during that phase. This is a very important figure that I am putting up before you. That after all, what is needed to bring about the organizational change? I have preferred to use the term organizational transformation. You see, strategic change, which is the subject matter of discussion at the moment in Chapter 8 also, in the context of strategic leadership. Strategic change is different from, normal from any other form of organizational change, right? It requires, as I said, the reframing of the organizational vision and mission, right? And changing the organizational structure and redefining the organizational relationship with the environment. So, therefore, it requires a total transformation, right? Shivangi, I'm agreeable to the fact that in banks there has been a lot of automation. So now you don't have to go to the bank. Now you can draw the money from the ATM. Spot on. But you have to appreciate the fact also that all business process engineering is not simply automation. You can bring about a lot of improvement in the customer service and organizational performance simply by changing the processes. I will give you another example from the hospitality sector, Shivangi, and for the to you for the benefit of all. Um, you see that if you have ever been to Subway, I'm sure you would be missing your McD's and KFC's and Subway during the lockdown. However, here, if you remember Subway, you can actually design your submarine, is it not? You can decide on the ingredients that you would like to, and you can also choose the kind of bread. That kind of customization is possible. So this is a huge process re-engineering, wherein you set up your counter in such a way that empowers the customer to design their food the way they would like to have it, right? Without incurring the cost of a buffet system, right? So, and no automation here, right? So, therefore, I hope I am clear, as far as the Tarun, and there have been several questions on presentation during the exams. Let me kind of remember it for discussion in the last 15 minutes of the session today. Please remind me again that I need to give you some perspective of mine in attempting the question paper. Although I am not an expert on examinations at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, we had a speaker, Mr. Prasanna, who is an expert in that area. Yet, as an academic, as an educator, I will definitely, tell, kind of how it matters. So here, the strategic leadership is all about bringing about that organization-wide, kind of transformation and to enhance the strategic advantage and competitive performance of the business enterprise. You move, towards leading, the change, and that's where probably strategic leadership differs from the usual leadership, right? Wherein you are, reacting to the changes, right? A great example of strategic leadership via organizational transformation has in management books is Jack Welch. And as you can see how during his tenure of 19 years, Jack Welch catapulted General Electric from 13 billion to 500 billion company. And, the strategic leadership mantra from Welch are stated like this, reframing the vision for the business, change the culture. So culture is a huge lever of strategic change. Flatten the organization. We have already seen flattening of the structures, elimination of the bureaucracy, and empowering of the individuals, and elimination of the boundaries. So whatever we have talked about, the organizational structures and leadership, it has come alive in Jack Welch's, kind of agenda for transforming General Electric. So continuing with our idea of transformational leader, what does after all he does? He exerts an idealized influence. He thinks of an ideal situation, a huge aspiration, and makes people believe that kind of is a scenario, right? And he exerts an inspirational motivation on the people. He inspires them to give up the ordinary for the sake of extraordinary, He nourishes their thinking processes. A good, great teacher not only kind of transacts a curriculum, he inspires the students, instills in them a yearning for knowledge, for more, and for enlightenment. Is it not? And he is able to reach out to each individual, right? And he works with persons and teams and organizations and societies to realize the kind of change that is, kind of needed. Uh, Somebody asked me the question, distinction between transformational and transactional leader. I think transformational leadership theory is the one where there is a huge role of the followers. It's as you can see, I'm sure you would have, especially if you are from management background or you have done psychology or organizational behavior, you know that leadership is said to be the function of the leader, follower, and the situation, right? I'll enlarge it for your benefit so that you are with me on this. You know, while this equation is existential, it is it is there virtually in every book on leadership or management where there is a chapter on leadership. But rarely you will find anything in praise of or on the importance of the followership. In fact, transformational leadership at one way is about transforming the followers into leaders themselves. Because we don't need one leader for a big organization. We need leaders at every nook and corner of the organization, right? So we need in this country, for example, leaders everywhere, is it not? There's a huge leadership crisis. So, not only, so transformational leadership is very different from transactional leadership in the sense that one, transactional leaders turn their followers into leaders themselves, one. Two, they do recognize and acknowledge the importance of the followers in any leadership situation. And so there are transformational followers. And to my mind, there is no difference between transformational leaders and transformational followers. Sounds philosophical, but see a little bit of argumentation and building of the argumentation, and you will understand. Do we need sheep in this country who will blindly follow their leader? And will a country or will an organization be run by the whims and fancies of a person? Do we need only yes people? Don't you think that in many situations which the country is facing, if only some people had the courage to ask questions, to disagree, with the leaders, things would have been much better managed, right? So effective followers. It is not what you call, it is not arrogance, it is not disobedience, not to disagree, not to dissent, not to ask the right type of questions, and even to challenge the leadership thinking. Because followers have the same stake, in the success of the corporation as the leaders have. So effective followers have the courage to participate in the transformation process. They are willing to take the initiative. They are willing to undergo that painful process of transformation from caterpillar to a butterfly. They are willing to serve, sacrifice, but they also have the courage to challenge the leader that, look, your premises are wrong. We believe that things should be done in this way so as to cause least discomfort to the environment, to the people, and yet achieve our objectives. And of course, if they find that their voices are falling on deaf ears, they also have the courage to leave and, kind of challenge the organizations. Very many such leaders have quit their public sector enterprises, started their enterprises, and they have challenged in a way the their erstwhile employers. And it is not true of not only public sector enterprises, but also very many competent employees, very effective followers have quit their organizations because their advice, their suggestions were not respected, they were not listened to, and they started parallel organization, and they make their organizations erstwhile employers run for money. I am reminded of a beautiful movie, if you have seen, of Rocket Singh. He is a young boy working in a computer, I think maintenance company or something like that. He has certain work ethos and values. He is not respected in his organization. He quits it and sets up a parallel business and gives the erstwhile employer a run for the money. So, in kind of transformational leadership, there's a huge synergy between the leader and the follower. Good leadership maximizes follower strengths, and good followership minimizes leadership weaknesses. So there's a continuous improvement, huge teamwork, and superlative organizational performances. And of course, organizational change process is always painful. Lot of emotional energy is spent, and maybe we begin with the denial, but we have to reach the excitement and euphoria of achievement, and we have to prevent our fall in the valley of death, and that's where transformation leaders, pull us out of the valley of death and tell us that there's no point finger pointing, there's no point getting angry, there's no point getting depressed. It is always good to ask questions, identify the problems, and feel the excitement of becoming a better version of yourselves. Right? So, I remember there was a beautiful question in the morning session by Mahima, and she has asked me to give a flow chart on the change because this is your chapter. Next chapter also incidentally mentions the strategic change. I have got a beautiful piece of work done for Mahima and for the benefit of all through her. You see, whenever we are changing or transforming an organization, the fundamental question is like this. Because everybody is a prisoner of one's habits, right? Organizations are also prisoners of their habits, the way they do the things. And if you have to challenge them, and if you have to change their way, transform their way, the fundamental question is this: can you color the eyes? Let us make it a test drive. And let me stimulate your thinking on this. Okay. Can we color the ice cube? If yes, how? I hope you are with me. I would like to see your quick responses to this. We are already 8 past 8. We have about 40 minutes before I open the session for any questions and answers. So I would like to see if you can quickly respond to this question. Yeah, I'm coming to strategy control, types of strategy control. Kalyan, you don't worry, in a short while from now. Yeah, any comments? So if there are rigidities all around, how do you bring about a transformation, right? Okay. Oh, Meghajit saying beautiful answer. Congratulations. um, um, to my mind, only a genius can, kind of respond like this. Congratulations for beautiful. This Krishna has also given similar example. Vishnu is also on the same line. Sumedha says, no, we cannot color the eyes. Priya is also saying it correctly, that we need to melt the ice, add the color, and refreeze it. Now, in change theory, this is an organizational behavior issue. This is called unfreezing, uh, and then changing and refreezing. So these are the three stages in the change process. And and you can now see the challenge before the leadership here. He has to make the people, feel uncomfortable with their extent, situation, present state of affairs, and he has to, melt them enough, and give an opportunity for them to be ready, for change, and then introduce the change, and then through reinforcement process ensure that the change is internalized and people really take to the new ways of doing the things. I'm extremely happy with the kind of responses that have come in over here, and you have got it right, Krishan, that it is the transformational leadership that will kind of all of the things for us. So, we have to question the normal existence, and we need not wait for the bad news, right? And we have to avert the denial. Oh, it is not possible. We cannot change, or kind of express our anger, why this has happened to me, why this has happened to my organization. Imagine if Nestle people were to respond to the crisis of Maggie noodles like that. The organization would have actually gone into the valley of death. No. So what they do is that they quickly take accept the news as it is, accept the situation as it is, and then they embark upon a transformation process where from right again turning out a hero from zero, right? So that is it. So this is the kind of what you call change cycle that is necessary for an organization to engage in, and you need not start with the problem in the sense of a problem. You can look at also an opportunity, and I have called it aspiration bliss, right? So you aspire for higher, for better, for happier, more hopeful future for yourself and for the generations to come, right? And then you try to start developing and articulating that vision, and engage in a process of change, and bring about the change that you want to see, right? Gandhiji said, be the change that you want to see around yourself. So transformational leaders, actually they become the change they want to see. So they exert their idealized influence by practicing what they preach, is it not? By walking the talk. So that is where transformational leadership is a huge bet for strategic transformation of the company. Okay. Now, of course, you can see that we have moved to the unit 8, in a way from unit 7, and several issues I have discussed in the course of my presentations here and there, with you. And I will be, tying up these ideas together to give you a command over chapter 8, that is strategy, implementation, and control. That is our penultimate and final chapter of discussion. And I'm sure you will equally feel engaged and empowered and enabled in this chapter. Let me see if there have been any questions for this. Yeah, I will come to strategic audit definitely for sure. Srivatsa. Mm, yeah, Mahima, I hope you have, I would have drawn even a deeper and a bigger graphic, linking up the organization behavior and strategic management. And you see, another thing that I wish to emphasize is that you can learn strategic management from whatever standpoint. Remember, at the outset today, I presented that equation, strategy as a function of, firm characteristics and the environmental characteristics. In fact, this is not an equation which I have developed. This is Levin's equation on human behavior. The behavior is a function of person and the environment. So what I have done cleverly is that instead of person, I have changed it to the firm. So that means if you have a good understanding of human behavior, because strategy is ultimately firm behavior. Firm is an inanimate object. Can the firm behave? Can the inanimate objects behave? Firm behaves through the agency of the people. Now, for example, the corporation is an artificial person. It operates through the agency of the people, and that's why the whole agency theory, comes alive in the context of a corporate form of business organization. So even if you do know your corporate laws fairly well, you know the corporation, and the corporate person, and the theory of corporate person, right? You can deal with strategy nicely. Likewise, if you have done a course on organization behavior, you can deal with the strategy nicely. So, and in fact, any discipline which depends upon human behavior, can be dealt with nicely by referring to that fundamental equation. Behavior is a function of the person and the environment. Anyways, I hope you take this idea with you and therefore do well for yourself in the exams as well as in life at large. Yeah, strategic control, because there was a question on types of controls, right? Again, if you have done a class 12 from commerce stream, you would know the difference between the control and the controls. So control refers to the controlling process. Controlling process means setting up the benchmark, measuring the performance, comparing the performance with the benchmark, finding out the variances, and fixing up the accountability, and bringing about the change, right? So this is class 12 Gyan on controlling function, right? So the strategic control is does almost the same, right? And I'm sure in class 12 you've also done the relationship between planning and controlling. So whatever we did in strategic planning is also applicable to strategic controlling. For example, in strategic planning, we begin with our existing strategy. So if we continue to do the things the way we have been doing, where we will land up and where we wish to go. That was the gap analysis that we did. So that planning and controlling, there's a famous management thinker, Kuntz, he says these are Siamese twins. So planning and control go together. So in the modern books on management, therefore, planning and control chapters come simultaneously. Unlike conventional books where the controlling chapter will come in the end, right? So planning and control, they are interrelated with each other. I want to spend some time. I have already talked about these issues, in my earlier sessions. That there are various metrics, various control measures available for strategic control. Your study material, doesn't adequately, cover these up. I thought that I will talk about these measures because this will again give you a huge perspective into the subject matter of strategic management. Can you see the entire slide? Because can you see that I have stated four categories of strategy controls? Yeah, accounting and financial controls, market-based controls, behavioral controls, and more holistic controls. I will spend my next 10 minutes or so on elaborating these types of controls, and in the process, this will take care of several questions that have come up on the group on strategy control, right? Uh, Okay, Gokul, thank you so much for your observations. Yeah, because you are the students of chartered accountancy, you would very keen on accounting and financial controls. I'm sure you have done a paper on cost accounting or management accounting, and you know this concept of responsibility centers. So the idea of responsibility centers is in sync with the idea of strategic, management because each divisional head is a ROI, kind of a manager, right? Right? So he is holding the responsibility center, investment center, right? An important accounting tool, therefore, uh, for strategy control is responsibility accounting. Another important tool, which is rather simple, but which is not appreciated in that sense of the term, is integrated ratio analysis. You please tell me, frankly, whether you guys are, aware of this uh, integrated ratio analysis. Uh, yeah. So how, starting from the ROI, we can cascade, various ratios and therefore kind of want to take a test drive on the integrated ratio analysis. We don't have much time, but still I would like to see. At least tell me whether you are all aware of integrated ratio analysis. I need to retain 10 minutes of this session for the examination, kind of scenarios. Yeah, quickly tell me whether you are all aware of integrated ratio analysis. I will presume because you're students of chartered accountancy and you would have done this DuPont chart. So how, ROI, for example, is the product of two ratios or three ratios or four ratios. And then further, you can cascade down those ratios down to the, lowest expense ratio or revenue ratio. And you can link it to the return on investment, right? And just now in this session, I talked about how a higher capital turnover ratio, can bring about a higher return on investment. Now, the market-based controls we discussed in the morning session when we did a small bite on EVA and MVA, right? So, one way of assuring ourselves that we are in the right strategic direction is to look at how market is responding to the corporation's shares trading on the floor, right? So because CEOs are always concerned with the price movement of the shares of their companies in the marketplace, and therefore market-based evaluations of the firm are kind of a useful uh, tool of strategic control. Now, behavioral controls essentially means the code of conducts and code of ethics and the organizational norms of zero tolerance against any type of corruption, any type of harassment, right? Any type of misfeasance, right? Strategic audit itself is a huge tool, and you are a student of chartered accountancy. Who would know it more than you? That audit. Now, only thing is that this audit can be internal audit, right? Wherein put under the lens the process of strategy formulation. You question who formed the strategy, how the strategy is formed, how and then how better it can be formed, who has the responsibility for implementing, what went wrong, why. And so strategy audit is again a huge tool for strategy control, right? And I'm sure, being the chartered accountants, you are aware, of the general importance of internal audit, right? And you know that the audit committee has to assure the stakeholders that our internal checks and balances and internal controls and internal audits are in place, and we are monitoring, kind of the strategy and the firm performance, right? So behavioral, I said, you have to have ethical officer and with several committees, to ensure that we do not uh, incur the kind of mistakes, for example, Volkswagen did, by fudging the pollution data for their vehicles. We would not like any other Satyam to happen. So we need these kind of people of integrity, character, and conscience to mentor our corporations, so that we are sure that our corporations are in the hands of the people who will run these for the benefit of the world at large, rather than for their personal greed and fiefdom, right? Um, I'm sure you would have also heard of these holistic measures of strategy control. Um, um, I mentioned some of these measures in the course of my interaction with you. For example, you would remember TBL, triple bottom line, reporting, and nowadays even we talk about quadruple bottom line of reporting, wherein we are reporting on corporate performance with respect to people and the society, a planet, that is the environment, of course, profitability. Instead of profitability, we focus on prosperity for all. And the fourth P, the most vital P, and we have had a long discussion in these sessions on purpose, the corporate purpose. So the holistic measures of strategic control look at the corporation, um, in its true meaning of the term. The companies, the word companies come from come and panis. Panis in French means bread, breaking of the bread together. So that means company comes. The word company comes from an origin where we are looking at an organization which is there for the benefit of all and for everybody. So these are the holistic measures of strategic control that are kind of needed to ensure that our we are in the right direction. And the relationship between planning and control highlights the fact that even if we have done our strategic planning chapter well, we are home as far as strategy control is concerned. Because strategic planning will also start with the inputs of strategic audit, the audit of the strategy at work at the moment or the past strategies. So that input is going to be a huge input for designing our strategy for the future. There were questions on business process reengineering and automation. I have already elaborated this fairly well. Um, Let me quickly talk in terms of the benchmarking because benchmarking, I have already mentioned, is again a very important tool of strategy control and implementation. Of course, I have developed a couple of slides on benchmarking, which I will be sharing for your benefit. Uh, uh, which is kind of here. And as you can see, that within an organization there can be some islands of excellence. So there can be internal benchmarking. You might realize that a particular division is doing rather well. So the question is, as a learning organization, can I transfer my learning from a division, my star products, say to my products that are not doing well? So, what are the lessons that I learned from the other divisions, and what is the extent of knowledge management within my organization, whereby we learn from each other, right? And therefore, this. So, internal benchmarking and external benchmarking, and this benchmarking may be for the strategy, for the performance. I have talked about various performance metrics. We can look at best in the industry, best in the class, next best in the class, or maybe best anywhere. So depends, what we need to benchmark against. So as a chartered accountant institute, for example, would I like to benchmark my institute with the Institute of Certified Public Accountants and see whether my students and my professionals at par and better than the world, and they are world class, right? And it can be process benchmarking. And as you can see, it's a process whereby we have to ask the questions: how can I become a better version of myself? What is that will take my organization to the next level? And what are the metrics? How will I measure my progress? And how will I compare my performance with the best in class, best in the world? What are the gaps? And what should I do with regard to my organizational strengths and weaknesses with a view to attain a model of operational excellence? Remember, excellence is not a destination; it is a journey. So you reach one level and you aspire for still, a higher level of performance. Um, Benchmarking, therefore, as a tool of strategic implementation and strategy control. Okay, let me see if Vishnu said probably that you guys are not fairly aware of integrated ratio analysis. Um, uh, I wish I could, kind of share something on integrated ratio analysis, but I will just do one, kind of an example because I still have time, and you will get a fair amount of idea on what I mean by the financial measures of strategic performance in terms of the ratio analysis. I am adding a new slide. I will ensure that I will keep font size big so that you can see. But otherwise, also I will put this slide on display and resume it in. You know that ROI, for example, is roughly PBIT upon capital employed, right? And this ratio itself can also be viewed as the product of uh, ratios such as the um, PBIT upon sales into sales upon capital employed. In fact, the sales cross each other, and you return with PBT into capital employed. I can do even bigger trick than this to impart it a strategic dimension. Um, This you would not probably have come across. So I can look at capacity upon capital employed. So how much capacity I create, capacity creation, upon capital employed, multiplied by capacity utilization upon capacity creation. So, what I have done, I have developed a integrated framework. So from one ratio, I derive several ratios. Shall I do a little more trick for you? This will excite you because you are students of chartered accountancy and finance. Um, Now, for example, when I look at PBIT upon sales, that's the profitability ratio, I can break it even further. You know, sales upon sales, that is 1 minus, right? What is that? Profit will be gross profit minus cost of sales plus selling and distribution expenses plus administration expenses, for example. So you can calculate the various expense ratios and link it to the ROI, is it not? This is the PBIT, the numerator, cascading, right? Let us see how even the denominator, cascading can happen. But I can do this. At the moment, it is 1 by capital employed, because on the denominator there is PBIT, right? What I can do is I can do a change, 1 divided by 1 divided by capital employed. So I can look at the capital employed from the asset side as well as on the liability side. For example, if I cascade capital employed on the asset side, right? So it's a sales upon capital employed. No, I do capital employed upon sales. So I had 1 divided by capital, that ratio. So capital employed is what? Fixed assets plus net working capital. So I have got fixed assets turnover ratio, current asset turnover ratio, within the current assets, inventory turnover ratio, the receivable turnover ratio, and so on. So that is the asset side of the capital employed. And if I were to look at the capital employed from the liability side, I can have debt plus equity. Yeah. So I can calculate my leverage ratios and the impact of the leverage on my ROI, right? And not only ROI, even earning per share and so on. Now, this is the beauty of the integrated ratio analysis. I hope I have been able to communicate in these 5 to 7 minutes the whole idea of integrated ratio analysis. Please type in yes so that I can assure myself of your understanding, that you have understood the integrated ratio analysis. Could you please quickly, kind of mention, type in yes, so that, I may assure myself that I have been able to convey to you the idea. Okay. So, so much so about this. An important dimension we have seen in strategy implementation, and we have also referred to as cultural norms as a means of strategy control, is the organizational culture. uh, I have designed this small module especially for you because there were some queries, as to how organizational culture may be a tool of strategy implementation. I know I have just established that the culture also gives you the norms and norms of ethics and norms of behavior that can also be huge, kind of impact on strategy control. So next 5 to I think 10 minutes on organization culture. I'm sure you will love this last bite on our journey of these 10 hours on your strategic management paper. Of course, organization culture can be defined as several ways that it is embedded in the network of organizational practices. It refers to shared beliefs, values, and assumptions held by members of an organization. The way things are done here, and it is amplified by the behavior of leaders because leaders are said to be the fountain heads of organizational culture. So whatever they do in a way, and when they walk their talk, they are observed by the followers, and that becomes the embedded in the organizational shores, right? Straight away to a case study, how culture impacts the strategy and strategy performance. This is a beautiful study on Xerox Corporation. Before I do that, you can see that how culture, matters in the performance of any entity. Immediately, the huge case scenario that comes to my mind is that of Delhi Metro. Face it, Delhi Metro, hired its people from the Public Works Department and from other government department, including Indian Railways, right? And they came from a bureaucratic culture. And here was a need to give on-time delivery of metro services, and rapid urban transport system in Delhi, and then set a benchmark which will be emulated and followed everywhere. So therefore, Mr. Sridharan took upon himself the task of creating an organization culture where everybody would report on time in the office. This was very unusual for a government office to open bank on at 9 a.m. In fact, people will reach there around 8:50 because 9 a.m. means you have to start working at 9 a.m. So this is how the organization culture was built brick by brick, bit by bit, into a formidable team of Delhi Metro that has delivered all its projects on schedule, before schedule, saving lots of money on project management, and of course providing a huge social return on capital and transformation of urban commuting in India, right? So from such a huge example of cultural intervention for effective strategy implementation, I take up a smaller case study of Xerox executive Miss Ursula Burns. She's been the poster lady of all business magazines for her initiatives at the Xerox machine. Xerox business took a lot of beating because of certain design issues with their machines. So therefore, she took up the initiatives, on the product side. So as you can see, she had taken two major initiatives for which the CEO world and the corporate world, kind of gratefully acknowledges her contribution. Of course, she worked on technologies, she worked on products, and bring about a transformation there. And as you can see, highlights in the pink. Her other initiative was cultural, right? So she, observed that Xerox culture was getting in its way to transforming itself. What was the type of culture Xerox had? They say we are a family. And she described this feeling of family, as terminal niceness, So we will not criticize each other, we will not challenge each other, no, and we will not question each other. If everybody is agreeing and nobody is questioning, that means nobody is really thinking about the corporation. Is it not? So, as I said, we don't need yes people. We need critical thinking people who are attached to the organization, who value their contribution to the organization, and who believe that organization is as much theirs as that of anyone else. Right. So she says that she embarked upon. She realized that Xerox's old culture was counterproductive to growth and innovation, and she told them that okay, if we are a family, why not we become more real like a family? Because if we are actually in the family, we need good of each other, and we think good of the family as a whole. So I would not shy in pointing out your mistakes, right? Pointing where the things can go wrong, and we have to be very frank in each other's criticism and accepting, giving the criticism and accepting the criticism constructively, and bringing about a transformation in the organizational destiny. So here is a beautiful example, therefore, in terms of how culture brings about an organizational transformation for superlative performance. Okay. Yeah, Krishna, DuPont analysis is ultimately that integrated issue analysis. You are spot on. I'm very happy that you could relate this. Okay. Now, organization cultures can be various types. You can be a clan, you can be a family, you can be a hierarchy, you can be an adhocracy, teams, and you can be a market-driven, market-like culture, competitive culture, right? So you have to see what kind of culture is likely to be in greater sync with the strategic objectives, and it is incumbent upon the leader to transform the organizational culture. In general, you can see that the type of organization culture varies with the organizational size, and as the organizations grow, they tend to be more open, and market like cultures, merit-based, professional, autonomous cultures, but however we cannot prescribe it, because culture is like personality. What personality is to an individual, culture is to an organization. Different organizations will have different cultures, right? Cultures are the least malleable, of all the organizational variables. So it requires a lot of, patience and courage of conviction at the end of the leadership to bring about a cultural transformation within the firm. So one of the cultural intervention is that because we have to compete in the newer markets, and we have to constantly be on the edge of bringing about improvements in our processes and in our product designs, right? We have to bring about entrepreneurship within the firm. So the question is, how can we bring about entrepreneurship within the firm? Somebody asked me what is the difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. I think it is clear from the name. Intra means intra-corporate entrepreneurship. That means we encourage people to be creative, to bring about radical, solutions to the problems, and suggest to the top management the new areas of product development and diversification of businesses, adoption of newer technologies, right? So the top management, therefore, and the board of directors have to take a parenting role, a championing role for encouraging entrepreneurship within the firm, right? And so we have to give a lot of autonomy and organizational slack, because you do linear programming, there are slack variables, there are so many organizational resources that are lying idle. So if we can give those resources to the budding entrepreneurs within the firm, they can utilize the same resources. In rocket saying, the protagonist use the office time to set up the new business, right? So if we can kind of provide opportunity and trust the people to think newer ideas, that will be great. So, of course, management support has to be there. There has to be total commitment and and sponsorship of entrepreneurship within the firm. And when I sponsor the entrepreneurship within the firm, I provide the slack, I provide the finance and materials, I simply give way to the hierarchies, I encourage cross-functional teams, to think through the new solutions, and I encourage the spirit of risk taking. No pain, no gain. It is said. So I have to be tolerant of mistakes. Whenever I embark upon something new and innovative, things can go wrong. But if the organization was to penalize the mistakes more than it rewards the accomplishment, I think it is doomed to die a painful death, because organizations have to keep innovating themselves to stay relevant in the changing context of the time. So there are various ways through which this can happen, and I can set up a fund to promote new businesses. I can create a new venture division within the business firm. SBUs themselves are, kind of a tool of encouraging entrepreneurship. I can encourage complete spin-off. So you can grow your business within the firm, and then you can then move out. So there are various ways through which a firm may promote entrepreneurship as a cultural change for strategic competitive advantage. So I think that's where probably I would rest my discussion of Unit 7 and 8. I hope I have been able to respond to most of the queries and Nikita, sales and cost of sales. You would have heard of cost of goods sold, opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. So when you deduct cost of goods sold from sales, you arrive at gross profit. Is it not? Jyoti asked me with the benchmarking and business process engineering is the same. No, benchmarking will kind of help you identify where the things need improvement, and then the business process re-engineering and the process improvement can bring about the necessary changes. Thank you, Rajesh, for reminding me that the last 10 minutes. As far as the examination is concerned, I think first of all, feel empowered. If you have attended this 10-hour marathon session with me, I'm sure you are absolutely capable of dealing with any question from any topic, right? Therefore, be confident at the first place when it comes to the examination. And secondly, let us, kind of strive for excellence. Let my answer sheets let my answer sheets be an object de art, right? Uh, you know, it becomes a treat to the examiner, right? I may write in simple sentences, right? And I may make use of infographics. Somebody asked me whether we should be using diagrams or not. Yes, do infographics, but never orphan these. That is, you say that as may be seen from the picture, the generic strategic alternatives available to a firm at business level are cost leadership and differentiation and focus, right? So ensure that your infographic is embedded in the text and it is got properly labeled, right? So that will fetch you, good marks. In the dichotomous questions, please make a 3-column matrix. So where the first column will be of basis of difference. On what basis you are distinguishing, say, a functional organization from the divisional organization, right? So always do a 3-column kind of. And please ensure that your answers have a brief introduction and you hit the nail on its head. So if the question is on business process reengineering, you straight away define what business process reengineering is, and then if it talks about its importance, then do that. In between, you put in the business process reengineering diagram, and kind of elaborate it. So introduction, and then let there be a neatly crafted, developed paragraphs. Each paragraph to just delve on, one idea at a time, right? And then please ensure that you also give a conclusion to your answer, right? And most importantly, zero tolerance for do your work honestly, and that's very important. Try to be an original version of yourself rather than somebody else's copy, right? And for the case scenarios, I have already mentioned that you two mantras. One, always say wherever it is possible, according to the facts provided in the case. So, and then secondly, according to the theory. So, give your arguments always with reference to the relevant theory, right? Now, for example, theory of industrial organization says that the industry structure greatly impacts the conduct of the firm, right? So, it seems that the firm, in question is operating in a monopolistic structure, and therefore it will be advisable for it to engage in product differentiation. So whenever you're dealing with the case studies, you please, use these two tricks that you focus on the facts that are provided in the case, and you also focus on the theory. I think these are some of the important points that will help you in coming out, excellent outcomes for yourself, not only in the exam but also in life at large. Thank you so much for being with me on this session. You have asked for my personal contact numbers, and the way you could contact me. I'm sorry, I guess it is not the institute's policy to, kind of to do so. However, probably if there are any further queries, you can route it to the institute, and if the institute deems it fit, it will get back to me, and I will be most happy to assist you in whatever ways. Thank you so much. All of you have been great learners, and I wish you the very best. More than the results, which of course you are all going to shine, I would also wish you to be very responsible professionals, and devoted, as I said, to the cause, not just for applause, for its own sake, and serve the humanity, serve the Mother Earth, and do well for yourselves. Thank you so much. I am signing off now.